Hey there, it's Sam, and I'm doing the new moon forecast. We will be having a new moon on June 8th, 2013. The moon will be new in Taurus, and it will be in the nakshatra of Mrigashira, which literally means deer's head. Now, the new moon is a time when the sun and moon come together in the sky. So we tend to focus on full moons because, you know, the moon looks pretty up there in the sky, and full moons are important. But a full moon is a halfway point in the cycle, and that cycle begins on the new moon. The new moon is like the point where, like, the sperm meets the egg, the masculine and the feminine come together and launch a new cycle. So that's what's starting on June 8th, 2013. It'll happen around noontime Eastern time in the United States. So again, it's a new moon in Taurus, so this is a time when we're going to be really feeling into that sort of connection to beauty and comfort and love and family, and wanting to connect with what feels good to us, and also assessing where we feel appreciated and respected and where we want to go deeper into that, or perhaps leave situations where we don't feel that, or where we just don't feel like we want to lay a claim to that, or, you know, that certain situations do not reflect our values and what we value. So these are the things that we're going to be looking at really for the next 30 days or so as the Taurus cycle begins on June 8th around noontime Pacific Eastern time. So this is happening in the nakshatra of Mrigashira. Now, the nakshatras are the distant stars in Vedic astrology, and the nakshatra Mrigashira literally means deer head, head of a deer. So you think of this symbol of a deer, and it's actually, if you think of the sign of Taurus, which is the bull, which is a strong, slow animal, and then you think of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury and has to do with duality, and actually the twins, that's the Eastern metaphor. That's the Western metaphor. In the East, Gemini is actually a man holding a club and a woman playing a musical instrument. It's more related to the lovers in the tarot deck. So if you look at these two astrology signs, Taurus the bull and then Gemini, which is two people, think of a deer as kind of falling somewhere in between, because it's a fast, sort of skittish, restless animal, which is sort of like Gemini, but it's also a beautiful, gentle creature, for the most part, like a cow. So, but of course cows are also pretty intense animals, and so are deers, but the deer is a symbol that very elegantly bridges Taurus and Gemini, and this is the nakshatra that does it, because Mrigashira falls equally between Taurus and Gemini. So this new moon happens in the Taurus part of Mrigashira, and so the symbol of Mrigashira, as I say, is the deer head. That's what the word literally means, and the energy is also what you might expect. It's a very gentle, kind of innocent, searching type of feeling in this nakshatra. It's actually called a wandering star, and the god is called Soma, who is the immortal nectar. So that search and that longing and that quest, for the immortal nectar is shown in Mrigashira, and it's where we take that beauty and that desire for happiness and pleasure that I just talked about with Taurus, and then we search in the world, and we become curious about finding it everywhere, which is what Gemini is about. Gemini is really a sign of intelligence, where we are looking to understand the way the world works. Kind of like a young child who is saying, but how does this work? But why? But how does this work? Taurus is sort of like the young child in the family wanting to feel safe and comfortable and comforted and loved. That's Taurus energy. Gemini is the energy that comes next, which is, now I'm curious to know about how everything works, and I want to be able to play, and I want to be able to enjoy. So this is a big quality of Mrigashira. It's sort of like that transition. So it's very good for exploring beauty. And it's like that innocent quest for beauty that the child has and that we all have. So that's a deep metaphor to ponder. Now, of course, this is all happening with a very auspicious configuration in the sky right now called Saraswati Yoga. I've been talking about this quite a bit lately. The planet Jupiter has just moved into Gemini, and Jupiter will be there for the next year, which is a big philosophical shift. Jupiter has been in Taurus, which for the last year we've been really trying to embody our teachings and bring them into our daily routines. Now we're trying to connect them with a more intellectual understanding and trying to really understand how things work, how the world works. It's a great time now to really ponder and study things, such as astrology, for instance, but all kinds of philosophies that teach us how the world works, because we all want to know, we all want an answer. And this is why astrology is such a good one, because for all the things that I've explored, there's nothing like astrology with connecting your limited mind with the cosmic mind. I have a lot of classes if you're interested in learning at all levels, because this is really what we're all interested in. Everyone wants to know their place in the cosmos, and astrology, for instance, is a study of that. Those things just became very supported with Jupiter moving into Gemini. That happened June 1st. Not only is Jupiter in Gemini, but so is Mercury and Venus, and that forms what's called Saraswati Yoga. Saraswati is the Indian goddess of creativity. And so now is an incredibly creative time for all things, whether you create art or whether you write or anything, or if you just want to create yourself in the higher dimensions through spirituality and consciousness. All of that is really supported between now and June 23rd with Jupiter, Mercury, Venus in Gemini. So that's just a sort of backdrop of this new moon and this new cycle that we're starting with the new moon in Taurus. The other thing that's happening is that Saturn and the North Node, Rahu, will also be aspected in Libra because they've been there and Jupiter is now aspecting them, so it's bringing a lot of grace into that area of life. And the other thing to mention too with this new moon is that the moon will also be joined Mars, because its Sun, Moon, and Mars are in Taurus. So the conjunction of Mars really brings about more emotional restlessness and things like that for the next month also that you need to be careful of. However, I will say this, it's a good energy for breaking things that aren't working. For instance, we tend to have a lot of attachment around Taurus areas of life. We tend to cling in the areas where Taurus falls because we want connection, we want comfort, and Taurus is a sign where there's the most attachment. Mars and Taurus join this moon. Mars is where we break things, where we cut things, where we say enough. And now would be a really good time for you to end situations in your life, let's say, that aren't working, where you don't feel respected and appreciated. Mars join the moon at the initiation of this cycle shows a good time for you to have the courage to break attachments and break connections that aren't working. And again, it's hard to do that, especially in relationships or any kind of relationship with people. They have a certain inertia, they have a certain momentum that's hard to break at times, even if they don't serve us in a higher sense. Now would be probably a good time to really examine those kinds of connections that aren't working, and you may very well have the courage to break them with the Moon-Mars conjunction at the beginning of this cycle. So let me know how it's been for you. Let me know what you are creating now between now and June 23rd with this Saraswati Yoga. It's a great time for creativity and for bringing greater connection into your life and making sure that those connections are valuing and that you're valuing others in them. If not, maybe it's a good time to rethink them, change them, or transform them, or maybe even break them. So I hope this was helpful.